Hello, the music isn't playing very well. Hi, Richard. I found out on the video where well, I don't know, tell me what's wrong with it. Maybe I can fix it. It's actually on my TV there. I could probably just show you pictures of it too. Hi, Richard. And I found out on the one where I was showing you Lake Rockwell Road. There's a part there where my voice starts going real funky, and then you hear all kinds of other spacey noises. I'm wondering if I got interfered with in that video. If you want to watch that video about Lake Rockwell Road, there is a part there where definitely it doesn't sound right. It sounds really weird. And that has been happening in a lot of my videos where all of a sudden I get this distorted voice and some weird other noises. So is that something trying to break in to my signal? Oh, you can hear me good, good. But the music, you can't hear it, or it's playing choppy, or what's the deal? Because I can turn it down or off. And I know there's a delay. The little tag there says imagine. Well, I'm going to be asking you to imagine some stuff in this video. Definitely. Oh, you know you're not allowed to sharpen your claws on the wicker furniture. You've got a scratch pad over there. Cowboy just showed up. And of course, he's got to distract my attention because he doesn't have all of it right now. He likes to have all the attention, you know? But yes, you don't have all mommy's attention right now, do you? Okay, I'm going to try and get through this. It's going to sound like I'm all over the place. It's going to sound like none of this is connected, like it's just a whole disconnected series of events and observations. But I believe that it is supposed to be like that. I mean, it is supposed to sound like that. However, I have been taking Ormus and colloidal minerals, and my mind, my cells are communicating with each other better than usual. And if you do it, you will also probably start to make more connections. And also, the problem is that I have been warned it can make you a little bit less patient with people who can't think. And problem is, of course, we are, I shouldn't call it a problem. It just is what it is. We are often surrounded with people who can't think. They have been, well, lulled into a state of hypnosis, as far as I can tell, and they cannot think except a certain way. They've been programmed how to think. And if you've been programmed how to think, you cannot think outside of that box, at least not easily. And there is a person on YouTube, and I do want to mention this, that talks very quickly. And I think the reason he talks very quickly is because he's used to being talked down and people talking over him and asking him a lot of questions. And when you have people doing that all the time, you learn to talk very quickly so you can get the ideas out before they start leading you down some other path and you get totally distracted and don't ever make your point. And this is also what some religious people will do too, is they'll get you so tied up in the ideology, or sometimes people who have extreme views, like what shape the earth is, or what, whether ETs or aliens or demons or whatever it is that their personal thing is. They'll try to get you going down that road, explaining so much to try, and then they'll start arguing with you. You will never get your point out. You never will. Okay? And that's part of the distraction. So, what I'm going to do is just try and barrel through this. And hopefully, whoever needs to see it will see it at some point, and at least it will be recorded, and hopefully that will be good enough, because I know I haven't been on very much, and so it's probably hard for people to find me, and it's hard for people to know that I'm going to be on. So I'm really sorry about that. I've found that I have some conflicts within myself. For one thing, I don't want the yahoos in my hometown to find out about this channel. How am I going to expand my channel if I don't want people even in my hometown to know about my channel, that I even have a channel, and that I'm talking about all this stuff? Because I talk to you guys about stuff I do not talk about to my neighbors or anybody else in this whole town. Except for, well, one guy. Okay? Because he has experienced many strange things just like I am. He's a shamanic practitioner, and he's had quite a lot happen. Now, in the old days, I belonged to 5 different metaphysical clubs, and I could talk to people. These days, I can't talk to people about this stuff. Even then, back then, there were people who understood it better and some who could not understand. And that's just going to be that way. I mean, people are going to have different levels of understanding, and that's just the way it is. And I understand that. I get that. But like I said, there's some things that I just feel like I got to get out and connect that maybe have been disconnected. Now, I left some things in MeWe. I have been leaving some things in our MeWe chat for you to look at the videos, for you to make your own conclusions about. And some of them are pretty interesting. Matter of fact, I've found all of them rather interesting. But there's a lot of things I've heard through the years that, if I connect the dots, as they say, or they seem to be individual things, individual stories, individual little stories that people are telling about what happened, experiences. But what if they are related? What if these things are all related? What if everything that we're hearing from experiencers really is related? And this is my personal belief. You don't have to believe it. But if it is all related, we had better start looking at the picture that way, like these are pieces in a jigsaw puzzle and not just separate pages in separate books. Okay? So basically, I think I'm going to start with one of the videos. Now, we don't know. We have no way of proving that this place ever existed, or that I left a series of videos called Mel's Hole. And it's from, no jokes, come on. But, well, yeah, go ahead with the jokes. I don't care. I'm just sitting here. You know me. I make a joke myself about that. But um, this guy was on Art Bell several times, 5 times in all, talking about an anomaly he had on his property. It was an apparently bottomless hole that everybody had for a long time, for generations, been dumping stuff in, but it never filled up, which he thought was very curious. So he was thinking, well, how freaking deep is this? So through a series of things he did, it set things up to where he could measure it. He took it down pretty far, didn't come up with any signs that there's water down there, decided to see just how far down it would go. And he got to the point where the fishing line, and I guess it was heavy duty, some kind of heavy duty fishing line, that he'd buy another roll. And he said it was to the point where he was something like 80 miles down. And it was getting to the point where the fishing line was going to probably start to get heavy and break, because that's a lot of line, you know. So it's still, there was no sign of it ending. There was no indication that the line was going slack or anything. So some of the Indians in the area, to cut a long story short, because this was five different uh, Art Bell episodes. Okay, so I'll cut it very short and just to the pertinent part. Pertinent part: the Indians wanted to know what was down there, and I guess they're pretty fearless people, the type that are around there. They were going to go send a man down there, but then they realized maybe this was just too dangerous for a person. So they picked out a sheep to send down there. And so when they put the sheep in a box, and the sheep was okay until they started dragging it near the hole. Well, when they started dragging it near the hole, it started to scream and kick and try and get out of the box, which I guess really upset this guy. I mean, he said it was kind of upsetting to hear this thing screaming. And it continued to kick and scream until they got it right over in the center of the hole to let it down, and then all sound stopped. And then they let it down in the hole. And after they brought it up, I guess they left it down there a couple hours and brought it up. And when they brought it up, the sheep was dead. But it had a freaking huge tumor on it. A really huge tumor. And so at some point, since it was, I guess it was moving around or something. Now, I would have been terrified myself. I don't think I would have wanted to be anywhere near that, having seen the movies I've seen, right? I wouldn't want to open that thing up and find it to be something really bizarre. But anyway, it was something really bizarre because somebody got the bright idea to cut it open. And when they cut it open, now this is all this guy's story. We can't prove this, but later on, the military took over the hole, and there's a whole story connected with that too. So, because there was a military base nearby. Anyway, it was kind of strange because, oh yes, and they had put another substance down there that ended up being altered too, but that is another part of the story. Anyway, when they cut this open, something did emerge, and he said it looked exactly like a baby seal, except it had human eyes. And then it looked at him in the eye, and he said it felt like a religious experience. It was some kind of a presence. It was a feeling of very deep compassion. And this thing looked everybody in the circle of people standing around it right in the eye. And then after it did that, it started making its way back to the hole. But it was having a few problems, being that it's built like a baby seal. So he, like I said, I don't know, I guess it was his experience with it that made him feel like he could do this. He picked it up and helped it back into the hole, helped ET go home, basically, or interdimensional go home. And then later on, the Indians would tell stories that they had named them rock gliders, and if you go into the deep caverns, you could find them and talk to them. Now, that is all a story, can't be proven. Once again, it's one guy's story, but it's all there, and there's more, and even more to that story. And I put all five, I found all five episodes, and you can listen to them whenever you want to. It's on. It's either on the Woo Lounge or D Ocean's Woo Crew or Woo Ocean's or D Ocean's Woo Lounge or something like that. One of those, and you can listen to it for yourself, draw your own conclusions. But it is pretty long. However, I got to say, for a story about a bottomless hole, it's pretty interesting. And if he made this up, it's so detailed. He needs to be a writer. He really missed his calling. So that's one part of the story. That's just a part that I got recently. Okay. So we'll go forward in time, which is really backward for me. Forward in time from that story is a few years ago. I was with a team that did extractions and crossing overs and closing portals and basically getting rid of your spirit problems, what some people call ghost busting. I say that's a misnomer. We were getting rid of your supernatural problems. Though that was definitely what we were doing. So, my job, I'm really good at crossing spirits over. I'm really good at closing portals. And there's a few other specialties I have, and I can RV. I don't have to be on site, as some of you know. I can RV all this. I can remote affect all kinds of things um, when the need arises. So that's how we were doing this, because the other team members could do this too. And this is something that humans can do. Um, so I just want you to know this is not out of your reach either. Probably, if you're interested in this kind of show, you probably have the ability to do it, or you wouldn't be interested in this kind of show. So just to let you know, we were working on somebody's place where she had seen a shadow being. It had already killed her guinea pigs and terrified her children. And so our task was to get rid of it. Well, we found it. It turned out to be a lizardy looking thing, a short lizardy looking thing. I saw it, he saw it, we both saw the same thing. By the description, we both saw the same thing. It looked almost exactly like a D&D kobold, right? But the reason that you couldn't see it, it was wearing armor. I said, look at the armor it's wearing. It was a special kind of armor that bends light. I could tell because the way that the light was hitting it, it was bouncing astrally. I could see it, but I could tell that my eyes would have been confused by it. So I said, look at that. And we got rid of it. And so I attempted to close the portal, but there was something blocking it from closing. And it was this long cord hanging on the floor. So we began to wonder what the heck that was. And of course, the person I was there with, he decided, he's the strongman type, he's decided he's going to pull on that cord and find out what was on the other end of that cord. And as much trepidation as I had about what the heck is he going to pull, I realized that was probably the only way we were going to get this closed, because whatever it was so tough, I could not close it through it. We would have had to cut it or burn it or do something with it, right? So he pulled in on it, and what came out of the portal looked like some kind of weird organ to him, but it was kind of black and green and brown and weird and bad smelling. And I saw pretty much the same thing. Now, to him, it looked like some kind of organ. To me, I was trying to place what it looked like. It did look like something. To me, though, it looked like some kind of nasty, spoiled placenta. You know, like like the big long string was maybe the umbilical type cord, and like this was a placenta. Now, thinking upon this, Bruce Lipton, who is a cellular biologist, in one of his videos mentioned that cancer cells, the tumors that we think of as being cancer that turn black and all those weird colors and are actually very malignant and stuff. They are made of the same thing as a placenta. They are virtually the same as a placenta, but instead of birthing something live, this can kill you. Um, but bear this in mind. So I don't know. Was it that we were seeing one of these things? What would it somehow equate to a cancer cell? Uh, because remember, we're getting electrical signals in, and our brains are trying to translate this all and give us a picture, right? So some of it, uh, okay, I'm just going to go on. You see my point, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm thinking that's weird because that's what he said. Is that what we were seeing? Were we seeing some kind of interdimensional cancer that birthed this thing? Um, Very odd. So as I thought about it more, I thought, well, actually, what creates cancer tumors? Well, radiation, toxicity, and injury. Oddly enough, exactly what they try to kill it with, too. This is supposed to be the cure. Wait a minute, that's the same thing that made it. Yeah, but this is different because it's science and medical and just do it. Okay, right. So, I'm thinking about this. That's very odd. Radiation, particularly. Now, what do we know about radiation? Well, radium, just to start, it came up when we finally found radium and all of the other elements that we use to make bombs and so on. We didn't always have that, but when it was unearthed, we didn't know what to do with it, and people put it in everything and scattered it everywhere, even cosmetics. Okay, it, it plutonium and all of that just wasn't used to make. I mean, they tried to do all kinds of different things with all these isotopes and things, just to find out what they could do. But I thought about it. That happened way back after. Okay, and there is another thing that happened after this. I'm going to go back to Aleister Crowley and what he did. He did a ceremony to open a portal to let a demon in. The demon's name was Lamb. And he looked a lot in the drawings that Crowley did. Crowley did a drawing that looked a lot like a gray alien. Okay, so what I always wondered was that really when the grays started coming in? Because we do have historical accounts of things that look like flying saucers and so on and so forth, but the description is different. So I think it would be another set of individuals, another species, not necessarily the Greys, that were in those ships, if indeed they were ships. But you really don't hear stories about precisely the Greys until later on. Now, if that was the genesis of that, we might not have heard very much of it for a while, but it would probably take quite a while to spread out, and it would take them quite a while, maybe to acclimate themselves to this place and spin whatever disaster they were going to do. And those of you who think Greys are just always friendly guys, it's like, don't think so. I'm sorry, but there are way too many accounts where they're not, and it seems like they are used by both sides, because it seems like really they are automated. They are not in themselves real individuals, that they are controlled always by something else, which may or may not be any good or may be very bad. It's hard to know. So it's just a random thought. I'm thinking, well, it did happen after that, and we did find radium after that. I'm going to go back into my college days where I was getting a lot of strange revelations. I was coming up with a lot of weird thoughts, which later on turned out to be true. I made some predictions which turned out to be very true, like, for instance, that everything was going to go quantum. Everybody thought I was nuts when I said that. Oh, that's silly. That's just a theory. That's just a crackpot theory. No, everything went quantum, if you remember. Everything was, and still lasts to this day. Quantum theory and quantum this and quantum that is still around today. That was just one of the things I said. Another thing I said is, as I look at it, and we were exploding bombs, atom bombs, not knowing what it was going to do. For all we knew, it was going to rip the earth apart. We didn't know. But we were going to do it anyway, weren't we? And we did. And then we get these experiencers saying that some of the ETs are telling them that this is affecting other dimensions, that this is not just localized, that if it was localized to us, they'd let it go on. But they can't, because it involves other dimensions and has an effect. Okay, so that was very interesting. From another source who talks to the planet, Mother Earth, and I asked her this. I asked Mother Earth myself. I channeled her to find out, well, just talk to her. I don't really call it channeling. But you can talk to the planet, by the way. You can do it. And she is very friendly that way. And so I confirmed it with her, if this is true. And what it is it blows holes into other dimension. It blows holes in the veil that connects and also separates the different dimensions, as we would call them, dimensions. Okay? So basically it blows holes in it. It tatters it. And we saw evidence of this. When we did that mass crossing over, Micah and I both saw this with our own third eyes, and he repaired quite a few of them. But of course, it would be very hard to repair all of them. So I was thinking to myself, is that why people are seeing more cryptids than ever, more weird stuff than ever? Is it, now, let me say, just as a for instance, in your computer, when your antivirus program nabs a virus, it throws it in containment, okay? It puts partitions around it so it cannot affect the rest of your computer. And actually, partitions kind of keep this from mixing with that, and it's kind of the same way that your organs are in sacs and fascia to keep them from all becoming one glop. okay? This is why your organs have fascia around them. Nature's little baggies, right? Ziploc organizer baggies is so that everything doesn't become just one big pile of glop. So it's sort of like that with the other dimensions. They have a sort of a barrier, and just like your bowels, your intestines, you know, your food doesn't go right into your blood. It gets digested, and then, it takes a special process to have that happen safely. And if you get something like leaky gut, you're going to be really sick, because that means things are getting out into your bloodstream that shouldn't be there, and you'll get sick. And I was thinking all this, and I was thinking, what if that's why we're getting sick? Because back all those years in college, I said, and this was really thought to be very funny, but not as much now. There are people who are espousing the same thoughts. What if somebody is terraforming? What if somebody is looking at our world and saying, hey, that would be a pretty nice world, but you know what? We don't live in that kind of world. We can't live in that kind of world. It's too clean. We're going to have to dirty it up a little. And how do we do that? Well, let's make sure they find some radium. Let's make sure they find these isotopes. Let's start setting them down the path of doing all of this toxic radiation involved stuff, because I truly believe that these beings live in those kind of conditions. There is a type of being that I think was even Naysay was talking about, that the Native Americans know about, that they won't talk about until snow's on the ground, which it is tonight. So I'm going to talk about. And I think it's really just, you don't want to say the name because you don't want to accidentally summon anything. They don't want to risk summoning them. But we had something going on in my backwoods, and these creatures look mutated. They look like, okay, it was during a hot part of the year. What if somebody is trying to take over and they need the conditions to be different here? And they need it to be way warmer, and they need it to be radioactive. And they need hard radiation. That's how they live. Well, we've heard stories from experiencers that say that's exactly what these creatures are like. That is, and they are toxic to us. Everything they do and everything they are is toxic. Their world, we could not live one moment in their world, in their dimension, because it's hard radiation, it's extremely hot, et cetera, et cetera. So the only way they can come in here is if it's terribly, horribly polluted and toxic and radiated. And so all those years back in college, I said, I get the feeling somebody's trying to terraform this place. And everybody said, oh, that's crazy. Why would anybody do that? I said, to be able to live here. Because what we're doing is making it harder for us to live here. What if we're making it easier for something else to live here? And that's why this is happening. But nobody understands that or realizes it, and they just can't see it. What if that's what's really happening? Well, I hope I mentioned everything. You can see, to me, these things all seem connected. Because when have we ever had anything being touted by the media and given to us as, oh, you've got to do this. You've got a job. You've got to use this chemical or that pharmaceutical, or, or Roundup, just even that, or, all of the GMOs. GMOs are great, right? No, wait, no. And possibly long protein chains here, and all of the toxins and stuff that are basically changing our planet and our environment and have really weakened us so much. Could it be that all of these things strengthen something else? that wants this planet for their own. And could that be the whole virus thing? Could that be what we're really dealing with when we're dealing with the virus? They would then be the virus, wouldn't they? They would be part of the virus trying to attack. Now, there's something else I did not mention. Another very weird occurrence, and this was related to me by somebody I trust. My friend Paul, who is shamanic, and he has a group of shamans that he talks to regularly. They found themselves trying to handle something they had never encountered before. They had people coming to them with back problems, and when they would look on these people's backs, they would see a giant astral slug. Now, the slug would not be doing anything to try and harm anybody, but when somebody connected and managed to communicate with these things, they found out that the slugs had no idea how they got there. They were just hanging on to somebody because they didn't know what else to do. As odd as that is, they were some kind of insect-like life form, slug-like life form, and they had no idea what they were doing there. But as the story unraveled and as the dots were connected and as there was remote viewed and double checked, they found out that the story became there was some kind of an explosion and these things were blown into our dimension from somewhere else where they're normal. It's normal to have slug-like beings that are almost the size of a human. Now, you know, it was just their astral forms. If it was their physical forms, we'd certainly notice. But a lot of people cannot see the way that a shaman can see, or a psychic can see, or clairvoyant. Yet they could, but they just don't, for whatever reasons. Now they found out these things were peaceful. These things were not trying to invade. They had absolutely no intention of harming anybody. They were just clinging because they needed something to cling to, and they were frightened. They rounded them all up and sent them home. And much as we did, tried to close up the rent in the veil. Now, this makes me wonder, all of these weird cryptids, all of the weird sightings, all of the weird stuff that seems to be coming into our dimension, is it coming through these rents? And are these rents being encouraged? Because supposedly, remember, they're being caused by all of these nuclear bombs being set off below the surface of the earth. Remember, and sometimes in the ocean. Just had one of those, and you saw what that did. Could it be that what Earth was complaining of, what Mother Earth was saying, I'd feel a lot better if they would stop the bomb testing, the underground, all of these explosions? Could it be that somehow we are being manipulated to do this in order to make holes, rents, in order to make those rents, those tears, those holes? And much like leaky guts, some nasty stuff is pouring in. You know what I'm saying? So it sure does look like, and now I have heard other people say, it does kind of look like we're being terraformed. Kind of seems like maybe this is an invasion. Now, we know that invasion already happened, but maybe we're in dispute. We have heard from some people arguing that our place is in dispute. Maybe more than one group wants this place. Maybe one of the groups needs it to be radioactive, and et cetera, et cetera. By the way, we got rid of those things, but we had to get rid of all of them because they were threatening that for every one of us you kill, and I don't mean the slugs, I mean these lizardy creatures that were toxic. And boy, there's a whole nother yard of stories to go down with those creatures. But we did manage to get them all, okay, because they threatened us. And I know this sounds crazy. What are you talking about? Well, we could see them with our third eye, and we could see them being threatening. And when several of us are seeing the same thing, I think maybe there might be some reality to it, and you can draw your own conclusion. But I believe this is what's happening. I believe all these events are connected. I believe the poisoning of our everything, of our planet, and all of the destruction is trying to pave the way for this. And we haven't been, because everything seems so compartmentalized, we could never see the connections. But now well, way back then I said it, even more now I believe that is what's happening. Now, it's not going to happen because now that enough of us, quite a few of us, are beginning to notice these things. So I think we are going to surmount it and stop this from actually occurring, this particular takeover from actually happening. But I want you to know and think about it and tell me what you think. And I know that it was kind of long and maybe it seemed to be rather rambling and unconnected, but in my head, I see the little spiderweb connections between all these things. I also see and wonder if cancer is the same as placenta, does that happen to biological, to a mammal, or maybe it happens to lizards too, but does that happen? Was that an attempt to birth these things like we took out of this house, like we got rid of for this lady? Could all of those cancer tumors have been like almost like a failed pregnancy? And were they all failed? We don't know. When they take them out, we don't know what they do with them. I don't know what they do with them. Probably they destroyed. But it's odd that it happens through radiation and poison, isn't it? So now, I'm not sure what we're going to do with this information, except what I've been doing. When I see a hole in the veil, I close it. And when I find an open portal, I close it. And when somebody needs to be crossed over, I cross them over. And I call for help with that because I don't want them to go alone. And I don't want them to just end up in the machine, in some kind of machine. Because it seems like what the game wants to do is it will eject you if it's working right. But when it broke down because of the virus, it was trapping people. It was trapping people, and probably most of them what we would call NPCs. Now, the nature of NPCs, I have some different takes on what those really are, what that really is too, what's really going on there. And that's a whole nother line, okay? But what it was doing was, I think, trying to eject them again, because these spirits that were trapped would say that every now and again they would re-experience the events that led up to their death, which must have been absolutely horrible. But no one ever came for them. Probably because it was broken. So I make sure when I cross somebody over that they are escorted and they don't go alone. And they are not left alone. They are not just left there because I find so many stuck ones. Since I've been doing that, things have been getting better and lighter, and people have noticed that. Other people who check into these things say, yes, it has actually changed. And I'm sure there are other people doing this. I know there are. I'm not the only one. So we are gradually winning this one, but I wanted you to know what was coming to me in my mind because that's kind of what I do on these streams. And I hope it made some kind of sense to you. If it gave you any food for thought, if it helped you out any, if it gave you anything to help your own um, studies or struggles or practices or anything, I hope it does. And please leave a comment. And I am going to close it off pretty soon if nobody has any questions. If somebody does have a question, please type it in and I'll see if I can answer it for you. Hi, David Castle. I had my eyes closed. That's why you're not watching me. I do this, I had to do it in kind of a meditation or I would have got myself lost. If I was paying attention to all of you guys coming in and what you were saying, I would get myself lost. See? And so I didn't want to do that. So I hope that made some kind of sense. Please let me know with the comments. If you leave a comment after the video, that would be great too. And if you could share this with anybody that you think would be helped by it, um, please do. Greetings and favor to you, David Castle, and all of you, Jim and I, and Richard, and everybody who watches this. Greetings and favor to you all. And I hope this really does help somebody either understand what's going on or help them with maybe something they need to do. Okay. In another video, I'll talk about some of the other strange stuff that's been occurring to me. But for now, this was kind of important. There is, of course, another thing happening. I do want to preface it'll probably be in the next video I do. Gemini Moon brought something up to me that I hadn't been aware of, but it looks like we are about to have, as the United States, now this is for the United States, we're about to have next year what's called a Pluto return. And I will preface what that is like by saying, when I looked in my book that explains basically all kinds of things having to do with astrology in a way that people can actually understand, it said, one of the first things it says is, a Pluto return is like a big hand reaches up and grabs you and drags you straight into hell. See, Pluto is like a cop, really. He comes and checks to see how things are going. And he will take things out too. You know, things will remember Pluto, the god of death, the underworld. Right? Okay. So, yeah. If there's going to be a time when our government is going to collapse, it will probably be during this transit. But that may mean that we're on the verge of having something new, but at least now we have some kind of timing for it. These transits last a long time because Pluto is one of the farther out planets. So this is going to go on for some years. And I know when I had one, it went on for some years. We'll talk about that more in the next episode, though. In the meantime, I love you all. Are these the archons that others talk about? Oh, Barry came in. Hi, Barry. Cue the cops theme. Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do? Well, you know what? It's funny because they say one of the things you want to do with Pluto is you want to be responsible. Well, one thing our government right now is not wanting to do is be responsible for anything. I mean, look at Afghanistan. They don't want to be responsible for that. They're not. It's not. They're even trying to blame this somehow on Trump. Still, sorry, he's out. He's out. This is you guys, right? I'm sorry, you cannot blame it on Trump. You can't do that. He's gone, dude. Well, he's not completely gone, but I mean, he's not the one in charge. You are. You did it. But they will not take responsibility for this stuff. They just don't want to. I don't think they're going to fare very well. But you know what? I'll tell you my thoughts, but I'll tell you next time. Anyway, are these the archons that other? I'm not sure which thing. I talked about so many things. I'm not sure which one you're asking about, Gemini. Yeah, let's go Pluto. Awesome. Let's go Pluto. That's what I'm thinking. These guys don't take responsibility for anything. I think they're going to get shot down. I think Pluto's going to drag them down. I think not the whole, maybe, and you know what? It's funny because do they really represent us? Not most of it, not a lot of us. A lot of us know they don't. So is it going to be them that gets dragged down, or is it going to be the whole United States, or is it just going to be our government? I don't know. But if it's people who are supposed to be responsible but they aren't, they're going to get their butts kicked. We're about to see them get their butts kicked. And this is probably now we know when it's going to happen. I'm told it's going to happen in February 222. I guess I might as well talk about it now that I'm on this subject. Might as well not leave it for another episode since I'm on a roll here. Since I'm on a roll, 222. That would be February the 22nd. Now, I have been seeing 222 everywhere. Gemini is the one who told me this, and she told me, she told me about this, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've been seeing 222, 222, 222 all over the place. It's got to be important. Well, I think it is because it's when the U.S. will be, when this transit will be hitting the U.S. So I am going to see if I can find that book. And if I can find that book, I can read to you exactly what it said about a Pluto transit because I did go through a Pluto transit. And I will tell you, it was everything the book said. I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening to me now. And I came out, I was okay in the end. But boy, what a ride. It was really a ride, okay? So it might be brutal and terrifying, but just remember, it's going to shake out to be better than it was. And yes, it will affect the whole world. Yeah, I keep seeing the 222s. You do too. Yeah, some of you do too. Okay. Yeah. So, we got that to look forward to, but I would say if you're a prepper, get prepping. Get yourself together. I have no way to right now move into my Earthship, but if I could, I certainly would because it looks like there's going to be a whole lot of shaking going on. But we've got to stay positive. Now remember, we can mitigate a lot of this for ourselves and for others who are not doing the harm. And I think we may need to. The world may need us more than it ever did. As a matter of fact, that's probably exactly what's going to happen. The world is really going to need us. Now, I found out one of the reasons why I'm not leaving. Because I could have left. I could have left if I would have stayed at the other place. It would have killed me. I'm really sure about this. I mulled this over a long time because there was black mold and all other kinds of stuff going on there, all kinds of stuff. And I was just getting sicker and sicker. And here I am getting better gradually. But there I was getting sicker. And I think I was supposed to die there because I kept seeing visions of getting taken out on a gurney. And then no more. I think I died right there on the gurney, probably in that reality. But instead I moved. I moved here. And as hard as that process was, it brought something better. Although I can't say it wasn't a difficult process. It was very difficult. Because I think at that time I might also have been sick with C19. They hadn't mentioned it yet during the time I was trying to move. So, because I was pretty sick, and if I hadn't had somebody help me, these two people showed up just long enough. I knew them just long enough to get to be friends with them, that they decided they liked me, they decided I needed help, and they decided to move me, and they had a truck, and they did it. They did the lion's share of moving me. They really did. And then afterwards, after I was all moved in and they were sure I was going to be okay, they disappeared. Remember, I said people were going to disappear? Well, I've tried to call them. Other people have tried to call them who knew them. And the message goes to a number, but it just rings. We don't know what happened. We do know that he inherited a place from his father, and they were going there in the winter snowboarding. But the fact that nobody's heard of them since, we don't know what to make of that. So, were they just here to be my angels? Perhaps. Perhaps. Because I wouldn't have made it here without them. So, when David, who, David is my twin flame on the other side. Let's just put it that way. He's on the other side already. He told me, he said, you're not ready to go because it's not enough for you to just leave the game. You have to win the game. He says, I know you. You're not leaving, you're fighting. You're staying and fighting because you have to win the game. So this means to me, and it didn't really penetrate all the way. But yeah, I probably did put off my own death because even though I know that death is not bad, and I know it's not a bad place, and I have died before, but I want to win the game. Or in other words, I want to see us win. And is it because I don't want to ever have to come back and do this again? That's what most of us are saying. I don't want to ever have to come back here and do this again. Okay? If I ever come back to this kind of a thing, I would do it for completely other reasons than why I came here this time, I think. Because this has been really hard. And a lot of parts of it, not very much fun at all. But it is, after all, a master class. And may I say, 22 is a master number. And it is the number of mastery of the physical plane. So I think after whatever happens after 222, which is 222, the year 22, basically to us, whatever happens, we are going to get back the mastery of the physical plane. That's what 22 is going to be about, I think. And also, 2 is relationships. Instead of becoming disconnected, I think we will become more connected. I think we will find ways to interconnect better. And way back years ago, when people were asking me who these things are that we now call the archons or Kabbalah or whatever, I had no name. I called them the forces of separation because that's what they do. They separate humanity and turn it against itself. So, want to call them archons? I don't, because that means, the bosses, the controllers, and they're not going to be for very much longer. But yes, the ones that they're calling archons, probably that's them. Yeah. Don't be afraid. Yeah, there could be some pretty big thrills and chills. And I'll be the first to not lie to you. I will not lie to you and say, oh, it's going to be a walk in the park. I don't think it will be. I think probably there will be some times that are kind of scary, but we can't let ourselves fall into that. We have had plenty of training on how scary is, okay? Haven't we? We've had a lot of scary stuff happen and we've come through. So we can't let ourselves fall into that pit. We have got to keep ascending because I'm telling you, what we are doing, what we are going to do eventually, is raise our frequency and vibrate out of their hands completely. We're working our way out. We're wiggling our way out gradually. We've got to keep working on moving upward, moving our vibration upward and wiggle completely out of their hands. And once we get to a certain level, they will not be able to reach us because their vibration will be incompatible and we will be unreachable. And that's what we must do in order to completely get rid of all of this. So you must, if you are trying to get away from it, you can't run. What you do is you get yourself happy. You get yourself in a high vibration. You get yourself brave. You get yourself strong. You get yourself feeling like you deserve a better life, like you are going to see this through and doggone it, no bullshit artist is going to keep me from having my wonderful life here on this planet. No, they are not going to control me. No, they are not going to control us. No, they don't run the show anymore. No, 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 no. Mm-mm. And then start saying, yes, yes, I want to be that ascended being. Yes, I want to be able to bend forks with my mind, which, by the way, I have done. I've bent silverware with my mind. I've done it in front of people, and they've been amazed. I want to be able to. I believe we will be able to levitate and fly. Even I believe that we will get all of our old powers back if we keep going. We just need to keep going. We can't go backwards. Okay, so don't. Whatever you do, don't slip backwards into fear. Don't slip backwards into panic. Don't. I'm telling myself this same thing because, yeah, there's going to be that temptation. Because one of the reasons that David doesn't come around that much is because it will make me sad sometimes to think of what I missed out on with him. And missing him. But and he says, well, it gets you thinking down a road that we don't need you to be going down because we need you to bring your energy up. If you're going to be sad when I'm around, then I'm not going to be around very much because it's going to, it's doing actually the opposite of what we need done. So I said, okay, I'm healing gradually, but I see your point and I understand, and so on and so forth. And this is interesting. Yeah, true, David, true. We're ascension specialists. We do this all the time. We do. Seriously. This as far as more than one person has gotten the message, we do this all the time. This is what we do. And we're really good at it. So we're not going to lose. Don't worry about that. No matter what it looks like. No matter what it looks like. Just remember that. And there's also another thing. Even though you don't know what you're going to do right now, doesn't mean you won't when the time comes. Because 1,000 times, at least, have I sat there and said, I have no idea. And then all of a sudden, when the thing happens, I know exactly what to do, and I do it. And it can be the same way for you too. If you accept that, that is the way it works. You may not know now anything of what you're going to do, how you're going to get through, how we're going to get through, what your part is going to be, etc. Maybe you do know, maybe you don't know, but even if you don't know, when the time comes, you will know what to do, and you will do it, because that is what you always do. That's what we always do. Okay? Well, bear that in mind. And don't be fearful. And realize how special you are, really. Because, yes, all of us who do this kind of work, we do this all the time. This is what we do. And we're good at it. We're the best. As a matter of fact, I had this huge being asked, in my sight, in my third eye, saying, you're our best. You guys are the best we have. You are that bad. Because I was saying, am I really that badass? And it was like this being was saying, yes, you are the baddest of the badasses. That's what you are. You are our best. You are the ones that can do it. We know you can do it because you have done it. And I'm like, wow. So if you ever lose faith in yourself, remind yourself, this isn't your first rodeo. The reason I figured out that we can't know in advance is because a lot of creatures are telepathic, and if we knew in advance, it'd get screwed up. The other side would know what we're doing. So we can't know in advance. Some things we just can't know in advance. It'll be given to us when we need it. And we have to just realize that's the way it is. So we have to trust that. And yet it always is there when we need it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Yes. You are divine. You have a purpose here. Never forget that. You have a reason you came here. You have done this a bunch of times, and you will do it this time too. And you will know exactly what to do, and you will do it, and you will be a big hero. Okay? Like you always are. This is you. You are a superhero. You really are. And I used to say what I wanted to be when I was a kid. When everybody else wanted, other little girls wanted to be a princess, what did I want to be? A superhero. You are all superheroes. Every one of you that keeps keeping on, every one of you that keeps doing your job, you're superheroes. And don't ever forget that. I love you guys. I love you. I can't tell you how much I treasure having found you and you having found me and my channel. I can't tell you how much it fills my heart that I have found you and you have found me, and that we can communicate like this. I will try to be on more. I will try to get over my fear. I will try to get over my feelings like I've been like I tried to explain in the beginning why I sometimes have trepidation doing this. And the place I live in is really kind of left. Okay. Um, and some of them very religious. And so I'm walking a rope here, but I'm doing it because this is what I do. This is what I have to do. And you need to hear this. And I'll tell you as often as I can. Okay, this is Ocean making waves. Now it's time for you also to go make some waves. The truth is where you find it. I hope you're finding it here. I'll always try to bring it to you as I get it. I'll always try to test it and make sure it is the truth. And if I haven't tested it, I will tell you that I haven't tested it enough to be sure that it is a fact. But here is something for you to think about, and you tell me. Because it's always up to you to decide to take it in or not. Leave it on the table. So, this is Mama D, Ocean. See you next time. Be kind to one another. We're all going through stuff. Okay. I love you. Bye bye. Till next time.